Welcome to In the Know. We finally have the trio together. I'm super excited to talk about everything Pelicans related. We're going to talk about Jose. We're going to talk about Daniel Theis. We're going to talk about Brandon Ingram and what an important week this is going to be. So let's check it out.
The New Orleans Pelicans select Zion Williamson.
And Holiday, the dribble penetration. So tough going to the goal.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back. We finally have the three of us together. It's been a process to kind of get us all same timeline to make this happen, but I'm excited. Jeremy, Mason, what's up? What's happening? How y'all doing?
Being a dad, trying to make the schedule work, man.
You and me both. I love. We went back to the throwback in the know intro. I love it.
Oh yeah, we gotta bring back the classics.
Yeah.
Shout out to DJ Gianelli. I forget how to pronounce his name, but that was great. Happy to make this work. Happy to have y'all here. Just wanted to touch on the Olympics before we get to the basketball portion of the Olympics. Have you guys been keeping up with any of the events? Like, where are you guys at in terms of the Olympic coverages? I watched the 100-meter finals today and the semifinals. Of course, I would not have missed that for the world. To be honest, I was rooting for Noah Lyles. I don't think he said anything wrong when he made those statements earlier in the year when he talked about what it means to be a world champion. But I know there's a lot of controversy surrounding that. Jeremy, I'm gonna kick it to you first, and then Mason next.
As you can tell by my attire, I haven't paid attention to the Olympics at all. Not in the slightest. No, man. First and foremost, fastest man alive. Noah Lyles, he ain't say nothing wrong. Secondly, Katie Ledecky may be a bigger GOAT than anyone we talk about today. The way she dominates the pool, no one is even in the frame. But I'm going to shut up about the Olympics because we won't talk basketball if I talk about the Olympics.
Turn into an Olympics pod.
I am on the other side of the spectrum, and I haven't watched. I wish I had been watching more. But there was I did see on the topic of Ledecky, I saw that tweet that went viral around where like the picture of her and then no one else looks like she's swimming in a pool by herself. It's like, yeah, like nothing else quite speaks. Like if you're blowing out, like it's like the Joey Chestnut of like a swimming. It really like I don't remember, but like I feel like Michael Phelps wasn't even dominating to that extent. Like it's crazy.
She doesn't have competition. She just wants to know how fast she can do this over her other 19 other times with the 1500.
Yeah, she's competing against herself, which is crazy. Like
insanity. Yeah. I don't even know like what kind of mental state you got to be in to I mean obviously like physically like she's just unbelievable, but like mentally to have that kind of like, hey, it's just me against me, like that's nuts. Because like I used to run cross country and track, and yeah, a lot of time it is you against you, and that's kind of how they like coach you. But really, you're chasing after somebody. You're trying to beat somebody, and you're trying to win. Unless you're a GOAT like Katie Ledecky, and I just cannot comprehend what it's like being that dominant at what you do.
At anything. Like I'm not that dominant at eating chicken wings the way she is as dominant of swimming.
Okay, so I have a question for both of you, Mason first, and then Jeremy. If you had to pick an Olympic event to compete in where you think you can be closest to the last place finisher. Okay. What event would that be?
Interestingly, but I get you. So first I would need to look up every single event in the Olympics because I definitely don't know everything. But I would have to say like, I mean, short distance running probably be the best. But I don't know. I'd have to look because I did run a little bit. Like I was one of the guys they brought in high school. Like if they needed a pinch runner to go steal second, and so like that's where I'm coming from here. And like, across country I did run too, but I was not that good at distance running. It was more about sprinting. So I didn't run tracks. I played baseball. It was the same season, but that's my best answer for you with the events that I know about.
I'm going to preference this with I am 43 years old, I am short, and I'm fat. So now that we got all of that out the way, I will do shot put only because I would like to try it. There's no shot that I will win it. but I'm a huge shot put guy. It is the heftiest sport in the Olympics, but it's different types of heft. But I would love to try it and lose far away from the rest of the competition.
I was thinking, I was watching the Hammer guys today, and I was like, that seems fun. I don't know if I can be any kind of I don't think I can have any kind of success with it. I don't even know if I can stay in bounds in the little circle that they spin around in. I think that would be a challenge in and of itself. That looks fun. I think Mason's right in terms of like technical closeness, like short, like if you do a 100-meter dash,
Yeah.
and let's say like I don't know
How
what
much can you
slowest time
possibly
is.
lose by?
That's what I'm saying. It's like the slowest time is probably gonna be like 10 something, 10 seconds, and sub 11
I will say
probably.
this. Justin Gatlin won 20 years ago at 9.85. That will put him at 5th. And he trained his entire life.
Yeah, I mean, that was insane.
Just to put in
We're talking
perspective.
about like being closest to last place, and I think if last place is like 10, 5, 10, 7, 10, 8, whatever, and optimistically, Mason, I'm gonna grant you a 13. Grant you a 13 in the 100. You would lose by 2.5, 3 seconds, which is 30 meters. But it's only 2.5 and 3 seconds to be over. It's not like you're running like even a 400. Where it's like that's a lot of seconds, or it's like 1,500. It's a lot of seconds. Marathon, you're losing by hours.
Take it,
man. Shout out to these athletes competing at a high level.
Yes.
Really, really happy for them. But shout out to some Pelican representation playing in the Olympics. We have Daniel Theis and Jose Alvarado, who both kind of put on for their countries. Puerto Rico was, of course, eliminated. They played against Team USA. Jose had 18 points. And that's really all I can say about that game. Jeremy, what'd you make of that game?
Well, he was efficient, and he made some big shots. He made some tough floaters over some of the best shot blockers in the world. AD, Embiid. He made a few catch and shoot threes that could help with the team. But I mean, his defense outside of GTA was not the defense we're used to, because he has to carry the load offensively. And y'all saw the score, man. Like we can talk about how close the rest of the world is to Team USA, but we have Tyrese Halliburton playing 5 minutes a game. And they have to rely on Jose Alvarado. That basically breaks down the United States versus. Oh, and there was a lot of fun dunks. Like if you really enjoyed dunks, Anthony Edwards and LeBron James gave you enough against Puerto Rico.
Man, just watching LeBron move the way he's moved at 75 years old, it's crazy.
He's not even going at full speed for half the game. Like he has so much left in the tank every game compared to the other countries that it's really not fair what they did to Group C. It's really not.
So Mason, why is it that a guy like Jose performs the way he's performing for Puerto Rico in FIBA basketball, able to put up 18 points on a relatively good efficiency against NBA All-Stars. And then, some of these guys who are popping off for the country right now, they come back to their respective NBA teams, and then they're not they're not the same player, so to speak.
It's a question I've thought about as well. And I guess my best explanation is that the Team USA just doesn't, the intensity on defense just doesn't really ratchet up, because they're not nervous, they're not scared. And so I'm sure if they actually game plan and said, look, we're going to game plan against Jose Alvarado, which is an insane statement to make, I'll bet they could take him out of the game. Like I really feel like they could, but they just don't care. This is my best answer.
What? Go ahead.
I was gonna say, like, I think some of it's just like you give guys enough usage, their counting numbers are gonna go up, and some of it is like, okay, not every team Jose is playing against has all-stars and all NBA players. A lot of them don't even have NBA caliber players. They have one or two, and so it may be easier with that regard as well. obviously FIBA is a little bit of a different game, closer line, emphasis on different aspects of the game than the NBA. But um, yeah, I do think for a lot of these guys, it's just the competition is a little bit less than what they might see on a night-to-night basis in the NBA.
Also, like he played well against South Sudan until he injured his ankle in the first game, like 19 on 8 shots. Like he was incredible. And a lot of it is the usage that you talked about, the confidence that the team gives you. Like you are the man. It's
Right.
like playing in high school. It doesn't matter if the other team is as talented or more talented. Having the confidence to know I'm going to get my shots and I'm going to do what I can. When they get to the league, they go back to the league. I got 15 minutes to make something happen, and I'm being told this guy has to get the rock. He has to get his points. He got to get his shots. So you have to find other ways. Hey, you looked at one of the guys. You find other ways to make an impact. To find other ways to make an impact on the team, and that's how you get this defensive dynamo in this small frame in Jose Alvarado.
Right.
Because they want to play.
No, for sure. It's definitely entertaining. And I'm happy for him in Puerto Rico that they've gotten this kind of opportunity to do it at the Olympic stage. They had a fight to even get to that spot, so it's been really fun to watch. The other Pelican that's in the Olympics, Daniel Theis, his team is qualified for the quarters now. Germany advanced out of the group stages. He's also been playing pretty well. Like you watch some of if you didn't watch the entire games, you just condensed his highlights. It's just dunk after dunk after dunk, and you're like, "Yo, this guy has that kind of pop." And I think it's pretty interesting because Germany is a team that's led by Franz Wagner, Dennis Schroeder. They have physical players. Have given the U.S. problems, right? As we saw in the last campaign. Theis is someone that is going to be expected to step into a starting role in the Pelicans if things don't change. And he's going to play with 4 other talented players in DeJounte Murray and Zion Williamson and Brandon Ingram if things don't change. And then, one of CJ Herb Trey, 4 very talented players. Do you expect or do you think it's a fair expectation for him to remain reasonably efficient? He's not going to get 10 shots a game. But do you think, they're going to be able to leverage some of his athleticism and he's going to be able to take advantage of the opportunities created by these other guys to be someone that can keep their head above water offensively in a way that oftentimes, frankly, like Larry Nance just couldn't do?
I just believe that he's better is the wrong word, but offensively, he's more capable than Larry was. He has a cleaner jumper. He is more aggressive going to the rim. He doesn't look to pass as much as he does look to finish in the dunker and on the corners. And he's a better screener too. Like he understands his role, and the role that he plays for Team Germany, he also is going to play in the NBA. That's what he's been tasked to do, basically not for a decade. So he is really comfortable in what he's doing 12 months out the year now.
Yeah, I mean, like he's gonna. They're not. This isn't a situation where he's gonna get like the Jonas bail us out at the end of the shot clock type stuff. Like I just don't see it. And I think something that, as I was kind of looking at some of his like recent play, I didn't even realize the dude is 6'8". Like that
he
blows
plays
my
so
mind.
much bigger.
He plays like he's 7 feet tall.
Yes,
like I had no idea it was 6'8". I mean, which is a testament to like how to his style. But look, I mean, I hope that he doesn't have to play any sort of offensive role. I can just put backs and maybe taking advantage of someone going double and or going double Z and he gets a wide open dunk. Like that's the extent of what I expect from him offensively.
But Jay, you mentioned the screening, and I think that screening is pretty special. There's not, too many bigs in the league who utilize that Gortat screen effectively. And what we mean by that Gortat screen is when the screener ends up screening the defender and sealing them out of the way, creating a wide open lane, just preventing any kind of help from coming into that situation. And Gortat obviously was a guy who utilized that sealing technique quite a bit, borderline illegal, to be fair.
It's not.
If you're a real Pelicans fan, you would have called it the Aaron Gray screen. I'm just saying.
Oh gosh,
wow.
Yeah, the Aaron Gray screen.
That
Yeah,
dude injured
look.
Derek Fisher on a screen. I'll never forget it.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Oh gosh, that's a throwback. But Adams was another guy like that, and Zion had his most efficient year at the rim. I think most efficient year in general,
Yeah.
playing with Adams. And we've seen time and time again these screening players benefit guys that go downhill. There's a guy on Twitter, Polar Fall, who does really excellent. Um, a lot of draft related content, but it's really just NBA analysis in general. And he's very good at picking up on player tendencies and biomechanics and how they move their body in space and that sort of stuff. And one thing he had a really good thread on was how DeJounte Murray really benefited from these ceiling style bigs, and specifically Jakob Pertl. His playmaking was dependent on Pertl blocking that man out, DeJounte being able to get 2-3 steps into the paint, reading that situation, using his scoring gravity to draw another defender, and then kicking out to like another open person. So I'm excited to see that pairing potentially bring back DeJounte's playmaking closer to what we saw in San Antonio than what we've seen in Atlanta. But look, I think with DeJounte specifically, I would love for him to not have Daniel Theis as a starting pick. Would love
No. 14 minutes is great. 34 minutes? Well, it's not 14.
Yeah. Okay. So I think I don't want to dance around this topic too much. We touched on it last podcast a bit. This week is incredibly important for the Pelicans. So at the time of recording, it's Sunday, August 4th. Most of y'all are probably going to watch this on August 5th. August 6th is the date that everyone's been talking about, and that date is incredibly important for multiple reasons. Brandon Ingram can sign an extension. That's the last day to sign that extension and still be eligible to be moved at the trade deadline. So I'm curious if there's a last minute push by the Pelicans and Brandon's agency maybe to get something done. I guess before we move on, would you, if you were in the Pelicans' shoes, these next 2 days, these next 48 hours, are you trying to hammer something in with Brandon right now?
I've already answered this. Mason, you want to give your thoughts first?
Probably not. And I say that because I feel like based on what we know already about how BI and his representation perceive his market value, I don't see them coming off of that enough in the next 2 days to make me think that the Pelicans are going to find there's no middle. I don't think they're going to find the right compromise. So I just don't think it's a realistic outcome.
So,
I hope he gets paid. Just not here.
Well, I was going to say, like, since we last talked, Jay, and one of the things that's occurred last week is Jared Allen got extended. We talked last week a lot about how Jared Allen has been their primary target this whole time. They've been like, all right, we're going to wait on Cleveland. We're going to wait them out as long as it takes. Theoretically, they can still wait them out until the deadline. That is something they can theoretically do. He signed on the 1st or the 2nd or whatever. There'll be a couple of days between the trade deadline where Allen is trade eligible if a team wanted to get something done. I personally think that's a stupid idea. Like, you should consider him off the table. Yeah.
Yeah, so risky.
I would consider him gone unless something happens in February with our new team.
Yeah. So with that in mind, your answer hasn't changed at all. Now that you're like, all right, I don't even have this backup option. Your answer hasn't changed. Okay.
No, and again, it's nothing against Brandon. It's more about getting the wings that we have. And me personally have to go back and hold myself accountable and deal with a guy in Utah.
Yes. So let's talk about Utah.
Yeah, what's going on?
They are the other important component of this August 6th date. We talked about it with regards to Lauri Markkanen. Same sort of situation. He becomes eligible for a renegotiation and extension on August 6th. And what's the most recent reporting has been around this topic, and it's something actually we talked about on the last podcast, is he's almost assuredly going to wait till the 7th or later to sign his deal to get his name removed from the trade rumors throughout the year, unless in the next 2 days, Golden State blows the doors off of the Utah Jazz and puts Podziemski on the table, which seems like they're reluctant to do. Puts all these 3 picks, 4 swaps, etc. We're gonna assume that's not happening. We're gonna assume that the Golden State's dug in. That's too steep of a price, and the Jazz are dug in, and they're like, whatever, we're just gonna pay Lowry.
Do you believe that? Before we move on, do you believe that Golden State's too dug in?
I think it would be unwise for Golden State to trade Podziemski and all of those other young players. I'm assuming Kuminga would be part of that deal too, and all of their actual picks that they're eligible to trade, including their seconds. I think they would not be a contending team, and I think those years after Steph is gone are going to be a total disaster. And I just don't think if it was someone that would guarantee me a championship, I would do it. Lowry has not played a single playoff minute.
And that's where I was going to go with it. Like, Paul George made it to Game 7 of an Eastern Conference Finals. OKC moved him to the Clippers. The Clippers still, to this day, if I were the Clippers, I would have made that move, including moving on from SGA. And it didn't work. If I'm Golden State with an older Steph Curry, an older Draymond Green, I'm not selling the farm for a guy who made one All-Star, was kind of in his hometown, and with no playoff experience whatsoever. I'm not giving away the Paul George, Anthony Davis, all NBA talent deal unless you're really homeboys and you can get your star to sign for $100 million less than he can get. Yeah. I wouldn't do the deal.
Well, I'm with both y'all. I'm just wondering because like what comes next with Steph is like, and that's a whole separate conversation. But I agree with you guys.
Free Steph. It's funny you mentioned. It's funny you mentioned Anthony Davis because that would be my barometer, right? If it was Anthony Davis available, I would do it. Yeah. If it was Anthony Davis, the New Orleans version available, I would do it. Even this Lakers version, I would do it, right? I think that's a guy that could get Golden State to the title, or close to it. Lowry, I really do like him as a player. I just not on that team. I don't know, man. I really don't know. And we've already had proof of concept on years where Steph has missed time, and the Warriors have selected number 2 overall.
Yeah, it's not even Lowry. It's Lowry, but it's also Lowry plus. You don't have MVP Steph anymore. Like, you need someone that's going to make Steph closer to the number 2 guy. Like, Anthony Davis took so much pressure off of LeBron on defensive end, gave him easy lobs. You need someone that's going to make Steph's job much easier. And as much as Lowry is a good player, I don't know if he does that for Steph.
Yeah. I mean, he's a bigger Klay Thompson, which is a really good player. A really good player.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, kind of reeling it back to this Lowry situation. We're going to assume that Utah is going to extend him. There's been smart people in the NBA that have already speculated on when this agreement happens in Utah and Lowry gets extended, maybe there's going to be another deal / dialogue that takes place with the Pelicans, and it can be a potential home for Brandon Ingram. I know it's something that we've discussed, and since we discussed it, there's been a number of other people, and most notably Zach Lowe brought it up on his podcast. And I don't want to say there's smoke around this situation, but I feel like it's not nothing. I think we're in a stage where if Utah has Lowry, they're going to be unable to tank in the way that they want to tank. They may see a situation where Brandon just bringing them more value than what they currently have on the roster, and they can make a longer-term play. There's a couple of ways to make a potential trade work. The one that we've most commonly discussed is John Collins and Walker Kessler. On its face, if that was presented to you, those 2 players, no picks, would you guys do that deal?
No picks makes it hard. If I could get a Cleveland pick, I may do it. Even and people are going to tell you you gave up more than for DeJounte that you got for Brandon. It's still really about Trey and Herb and moving forward with the organization, not getting value for Brandon. Even though you're getting two positions of need, and without a draft pick, though, man, that's really hard. That's really hard. Even though you get in a position of need, I would think long and hard both ways, and probably still at the end of the day, grit my teeth and bear it. But I wouldn't like it.
Yeah, there's a lot of moving parts here. Like you can simultaneously say this is not fair value, but also feel like it's the opportunity cost of not doing it. Like what are you left with? And look, if you feel like you can just play weirdo hoops and play without a real center for so long time, and just, I mean, I guess it's not weirdo hoops. Like this is kind of like this was the movement of 10 years ago. But like if you think you can do it, the problem is like you don't have much on the glass either. And so like this, it's not just like you're playing small defensively, that you've got a lot of other problems too. So like I feel like a lot, like even with when the Warriors were going small, like they could rebound all right, but I don't feel like the Pelicans would be in a similar situation.
Or you have to get so many turnovers, like you have to be hellacious.
Or you have the best offense in history.
Or that.
if they're always taking the ball out of the hoop, then that's half the defense right there. So yeah, I mean, so unless you really want to, like, if you can commit to playing with like a small ball game with BI and just ride it out to the deadline, and you say we just don't need a center. Okay, you know what? Let it ride. I don't know, like I don't know how much worse it is to do that than trade for what you just described, but look, I do feel like Walker Kessler is a little undervalued right now. I feel like like 2 years ago he was this hot commodity, and now it's kind of plummeted some.
Someone
and I feel like
voted him Rookie of the Year over Paulo. Someone gave him a Rookie of the Year vote over Paulo.
Real
Was
bad.
that
But I do feel like
Utah?
the pendulum swung a little too far in the other direction. But yeah, I mean, like I'm ultimately at the same place. So like, I guess you got to do it, because I do not believe that like you'd have to again commit to the playing that way and then make the move at the deadline. Like that's what you got to do. Like, because I don't think anything better is coming in between now and the hours before the trade deadline, I guess is where I'm at. And maybe there is a better deal at the deadline for him, but you just played half the season this style. And yeah.
My counter then, because my follow-up was going to be like, if you guys said no, like, would you do it with one pick? And clearly the answer is yes, if you would do it in this one. But so let's say this deal is still there at the deadline. So now the question is, let's say you get into February and you can still do Kessler and Collins for BI no picks. Would you wait until February and see if there's anything else and commit to playing weirdo ball? Or would you just rip the Band-Aid off now and commit to having the team you have now, and not risk any other outcomes that might come about with letting this play out for another 4 or 5 months?
Yeah, I don't think I'm waiting for February. If I don't move them, we're just going to try this experiment out. If worst comes to worst, you have your picks, and it's a very deep draft class. But just by talent, you can tell yourself, hey, we have 3 talented wings. 4 of you call Zion, got shooting with CJ and Trey, and you can talk yourself into saying we can manufacture offense if it all works well. You can. I don't know if I believe it.
Because I feel like at that point, so the risk obviously is BI gets hurt or something like that, right? But like, if you're going to ride it out, you can. Like, there's a world where it works, but BI isn't like playing because of so many mouths to feed. Like, he's not getting the recognition for a guy who's going to get $40 million plus. And so like you think you can extend him at a more reasonable number at that point. And then you move CJ for a big at the deadline. Like, there are a lot of different ways.
I'm going to stop you right there.
Yeah. Right.
So I think theoretically your process is sound. But
Tax. You're gonna say tax, aren't you?
exactly,
Yeah.
there's no world right now where they can keep CJ, BI, and pay Trey the money that Trey's going to get. And whether that's extending Trey now, before the season starts, or whether that's waiting until restricted free agency and letting that handle itself later, that number is going to be something that starts with a 3, in my opinion. Or a
Trajan got to
very
take CJ in exchange for the guarantee you gave Carlo. I thought about this, man.
They have 4 centers. We have no centers. You could just make this happen, Trajan. Just make it
Right.
happen.
So moving off CJ is not. I've thought about this as well, because I'm like, okay, well, they can go into the trade deadline and they can move CJ for DeAndre Ayton. That's same money. And they'll have a center. Aiden's going to be an expiring next year. Blah 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 blah. I don't love Aiden, but that's something they can do. And especially because Portland got Klingon, who they'd want as a starter. They got Duop Reith, who could play the backup role, and there's no business for Aiden being on that team. And obviously, they got Time Lord, who is still around. Who I don't anticipate being around on that team much longer either. But you do that with Ayton, you basically have to let BI walk for free if you want to have the money, right? Or you're trading him for something that's very small in salary, and that becomes super hard to do at the deadline. Like all those super uneven trades become hard to do at the deadline because of this 90% cap rule. Teams can't carry cap space into the season. So you're looking for teams that have some sort of massive trade exceptions, which I don't think there are many right now. And those type of deals just become more difficult then. Like the Jazz can do BI and John Collins and Kessler now, and they can make that work because they have all this cap space, but they can also make it work for, if they add in a few more small salaries, and they can make the salary matching work. I don't know if, the Pels, if they do that at the deadline. I don't know what their finances look like for the next year, because Collins still has 26.5 million. If you're trading 37 of BI out and getting only 30 back, yeah, you save 7 million. You're under the tax this year. Still got to juggle around pieces, and maybe that's next year's problem. Maybe okay, cool. You got Collins isn't expiring, and CJ is expiring. You head into the summer in July or August of next year, trading one of those two for a $20 million guy, and then boom, you're out from under the tax and you're fine. It's still a multi-step process, but just on the face of we're going to extend BI at any number, you basically, once you decide to do that, CJ has to be gone, and it's got to be for money that is non-existent. Like it's got to be like into someone's cap space, and I am worried about how many picks that event would cost.
It's a year and a half left. Like I don't know. The deal isn't unreasonable. Like it's not good, but
he would have to replicate what he did this year, plus a little bit more to not eat a couple picks as you trade that out.
Yeah. His contract declines, right?
Yeah.
His contract does decline. I think the deal that would make it work at the deadline is you trade CJ for Malcolm Brogdon and a pick. You send a pick. You send a pick to Washington. Brogdon's in Washington. That's the Portland Denny trade.
Yes.
You send a pick to Washington, you could do something there. And then Brogdon comes off your books. That's 20-something million off the books. You'll have enough space, and then you're extending BI. That's a world where you can do it. I don't know if that's a world I want to live in, because, again, now what you've done is not only have you doubled down on Brandon, is you've paid a pick to double down on Brandon. You still haven't solved the center position because Brogdon is
yes. Like that's you have a need. You have a position of need. If you have a deal out there that's going to get you that position of need, you need to pounce on it, because you put yourself in this. You put yourself in this situation.
Yeah. So I don't know if there's any. I believe you could wait it out until February if you really thought that this is going to be a great team, and this is like there was already a proof of concept and you were coming off a good season, because it's kind of like Cleveland, right? They're like, whatever, like we have a proof of concept. We're going to be good. We can run it back with these people. If all else fails, we can change things up in February if we really want to. They've given themselves that out, but they have a proof of concept. The Pels have no proof of concept.
Yes.
And in fact, they have like a kind of an anti-proof of concept where the ZBI thing didn't work last year, and the ZBI CJ thing didn't work last year. So it's like, they're not in the same kind of position, and the sense of urgency that they need to have regarding this needs to be a little bit higher, in my opinion. But just kind of like bringing it back to this kind of potential deal, let's assume loosely this framework is those two players are two bigs. I would assume from the Pelicans side, if they are getting two bigs, they would send a big out to Utah. Now, there's candidates for this, and I think the two best candidates for this are JRE, who is not a real big, and Carlo, who is their most recently signed big. Now with Carlo, he has a 30-day restriction before he can be moved. He was signed on the 14th, so if they were to agree on a deal, they would have to wait until that restriction lifts. But that wouldn't be an issue, right? They agreed on the DeJounte deal well ahead of time, and they traded him when he was eligible. JRE, I don't know. So, but who would you guys prefer to move in that scenario? Or is it one of those things where you're like, I don't care. Like it's inconsequential either way.
The crazies could get mad at me. Like if Carlos the guy, I mean, it is what it is. Like, good job for entertaining me in the summer, but you're gonna make your money. You're gonna get time. So either one is fine. I don't care.
Yeah. Does not move the needle for you one bit.
No strong feelings here. Wow, that's crazy.
Oh no, the 14th man is leaving. The 14th man is leaving.
Like,
please.
Yeah.
Please.
Man, like, if I guess like Carlo's the unknown entity, right? And so like versus what you've got in JRE, which is like a guy you just play when everyone else is injured. And so I guess I'd rather keep Carlo in that sense, but like I really do not care.
Yeah, because look, they're not gonna move Misi, who they spent a first round pick on, and they're not gonna move Theis, who as a free agent, he has a longer no trade restriction than the draft pick in Carlo. But it's just like, you kind of recruited this guy, you signed him, he was considering a spot in Europe. I think it'd be bad looks to move the vet. I would not be heartbroken if Carlo was part of the deal. And I think it kind of makes sense with Utah being a little bit light on the bigs if they're sending two out. They'd have Lowry, they'd have Taylor Hendricks, they would have Eubanks, they would have Filipowski. And that's it, right? It's Lowry and a bunch of minimum style players / rookies or young players. It's not great, but Carlo would be additional depth. And look, Utah has the pick flexibility, and they would still have the room exceptions / whatever cap space they have left. They would have Clarkson's salary. They'd have whatever. They have multiple paths to go get a big. They could go get JV from Washington. They could do it.
That would be fun.
That's a contract that's going to get traded.
Yeah. This is all the long game, and JV knew he was going to end up back in a team with a shot at the playoffs. So good for him.
Man, hey,
right.
the JV, the JV to Lakers noise that already started the moment he signed his extension, which is crazy to me.
Yeah, that's a little bit insane. I do think Utah could get something done with the Clarkson salary because they have Clarkson, Sexton, and Keontae, where those are very small guards that kind of need the ball, and I don't think they have room for all of them. Now they have Isaiah Collier too as a draft pick, so it's just like they got to create some space. Can you go get a big through one of these guys? Like, I know we talked about the Pelicans going after Wendell. Like, the Jazz could theoretically do it too. They have picks. They could do the Clarkson salary. Clarkson would. I don't know if he'd be a good fit in Orlando next to Cole because he kind of plays the same role. He'd be better than Cole.
I have a hot take. It's not about Cole though. Are we gonna stop believing in Jokic merchants? Because KCP got cooked in the playoffs, and then he signed that extension. I'm like, hold on, y'all still need someone who can dribble. And after Paolo and Franz, the dribbling gets pretty scarce, and I don't think KCP is gonna fit as well as they think they are. But that's neither here nor there.
Well, Bruce Brown, maybe he was a Jokic merchant a little bit.
Maybe.
KCP.
I mean, with that money,
is Jamal Murray is a Jokic merchant?
Hey,
I don't know.
Hey,
are we talking about that?
Hey, you go
non-bubble Murray, maybe.
Hey, man. I'm getting proven right. I'm getting proven right with my man Jamal, man.
These Olympics have not been kind to
It has
him.
not
man.
been kind. That's all I'm saying.
Well, what's interesting is like just kind of this now because we're talking about him that he isn't moving well at all, and that's kind of been alarming. Is like he used to be kind of shifty. He wasn't never a fantastic athlete or anything, but he had enough of craft
He
and
can
he
get
was able to get
himself open.
separation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It hasn't looked well for now. A full calendar. Oh, I guess post ACL surgery. It's
Fortunately for Denver, Jokic is the last person on earth who's going to demand a trade because his team isn't playing well. I was like, I just get to go home
man.
6. Right?
It's
I get
just,
to go home 2 months earlier. This is great. He doesn't care.
Can we get a Dirk Jokic like figures? Like, hey man, just keep paying me. Just y'all do what y'all got to do. Y'all got another title when y'all eventually, right? Oh man,
Yeah.
I go home in April or May instead of June. It's fine.
Man. The horse is gonna be waiting for me whatever month I leave here. God, that has to be a great time.
I saw a meme where it was like a tweet. Someone said like, "Man, I got important at work."
Yeah, I saw that was so funny.
Like, Jokic. Oh my god. Anyways, let's kind of bring it back. I want to put a bow on this Larry Brandon stuff. I know we've kind of like danced around it. Official predictions for this week. Do you think something goes down with the Pelicans related to Utah this week, Jeremy?
Yes. If they start talking about it on ESPN, I think it's happening.
Okay, Mason.
I'm gonna say no, just to be someone's gotta come the other direction. So.
No, someone has to remember that we're Pelicans fan and nothing good happens to us. That's what it is. That's
Charlie
exactly
Brown.
what you're doing.
You're gonna get Charlie Brown.
That's what you're doing, Mason. You're giving us reality.
Yeah. Like the last time I had that opinion, it was like we're coming. It was the play-in, and it was the Lakers right for the Lakers game or close to the play-in. And I was like, "There's no way that this goes poor. Like, there's no way that this goes poorly. Even if the Pelicans
you sure
lose,
did. You sure did.
And then of course Zion gets hurt as he drops 40. So like it's like very much as
the best game of his career. And yes, bring us somewhere else. Shamit, bring us somewhere else. Bring us to
my prediction is I do think something with Utah gets done. I don't know if it's this week specifically. So maybe that's my little hedge on the bet there. But I think something gets done. I just don't think it's sensible to go bring this into the season when there's so many other factors at play. Yeah. So that's my prediction. I am going to change the topic very briefly because I know Jeremy wanted to talk about rebounding. I did a little daily dive episode on rebounding chances and rebounding opportunities. And in that video, if you haven't seen it, what I said was that rebounding is correlated to two things. Rebounding is correlated to a player's height, first and foremost. And the second thing it's correlated to very strongly is a player's proximity to the basket. So there's a number of different ways that we can kind of measure and approximate for those things. But a really good measure of how close or how often a player is close to the basket when defensively rebounding is if they're contesting shots near the basket. If they're someone that contests a ton of shots within 10 feet of the basket, then they're probably going to hang around the basket a good bit. If they're someone that contests a ton of threes and not that many shots near the basket, then they're probably not going to be around the basket. And so when you take these pieces of data and you look at it from across multiple seasons, there is a very clear and strong pattern that these players who are tall and close to the basket rebound the ball defensively well. And the ones that are like Herb Jones, who've got good size, but they spend a lot of time on the perimeter, they're not going to have the same amount of rebounding opportunities that someone closer to the basket may have. Now, if you were to change up Herb Jones's role, those rebounding opportunities are going to go up a lot. And this is relevant to the Pelicans because currently they don't have a strong starting center, or they don't even have a strong rebounder, I would say, period, on their roster. They're going to be playing a lot of small ball, and it's going to fall on these guards and these wings to cover up these mistakes. And a lot of times with Zion, it's been a complaint like this, he doesn't defensively rebound. And I think there's a lot of merits to that complaint as well, because especially when he's not in condition and that effort is not there. But my small bit of pushback is that I think oftentimes we hear about rebounding is just about effort. It's something about trying hard. I just don't know if that's true. I think that it's true for certain players that certain players can try harder than others and get more rebounds than others. I feel like it is a skill, just like shooting is a skill, um, and it's something where I just don't know if there's a good amount of evidence where someone's come into the league as a poor rebounder and improved to being a good, great, or elite rebounder. I just don't know if that example exists. And those examples exist for shooters, right? Those examples exist in other areas. I just don't know if that has happened for the Pelicans. So my question to you guys here is, how much of Z do you think is poor technique, poor skill in this area, poor effort, poor want? How much of it is just not having the same amount of rebounding opportunities because he is a guy the defense picks on? They bring him out 20 feet from the basket, 25 feet from the basket, and force him to defend in space and isolation. Just what are your thoughts on this general concept here and how it applies to the Pelicans needing to rebound the ball without strong centers?
Can I say yes? Well, because some of it is they run a switching system 1 through 4 a lot. So Zion at times can be taken to the perimeter going 1-on-1. But at the same time, I have seen him eyeball rebounds and let him bounce to either his teammate or out of bounds or it comes off as a rebound. So sure, proximity to the ball definitely helps. Like Kevin Love in Minnesota, he would just carve out space and use his wider body to get rebounds, and he wasn't in the best of shapes. So it's technique, it's proximity to the ball to the ball at the rim, but it also some want to. Like if you wanted to, I saw a clip of a few weeks ago of Zion going 3 to 4 seconds from end to end and making layups, and the first thing I thought of, that's why you need to average 8 rebounds a game. Like that's free points for everyone. That's easy points for you. That's easy points in transition for the team and to get everybody set. So just a desire to say, hey, you can average 25 points a game if you grab 2 more rebounds. Why don't you just just take it? Go DeAndre Jordan sometime. Like, this is my board. Go Carmelo Anthony and scream this is my board and start the offense. So I think it's all of the above.
Mason, any thoughts?
Yeah. I get like all Zion's career he's played alongside big centers who are tasked with grabbing a lot of boards, but at the same time,
even at Duke, right? Like he played exclusively the 4 at Duke, and there was a wider body there too.
But at the same time, we bitched for 2 years on here about how Jonas didn't get enough minutes, and so not like I haven't looked to see percentage of minutes Zion's play with Jonas. Like I don't even care about Zion at the 4 versus Zion at the 5. I care about Zion at the 4 next to a 5 who is just going to command the paint defensively and grab those boards. And like I feel like that percentage of minutes ain't as high as we might make it out to be here. And so I have a little bit more skepticism about Zion's rebounding because of that. Say like, look, the defense picking on him argument I think is very fair, but at the same time, like I do think that he hasn't played. There's been a lot of time on the floor for him where he hasn't been playing next to a guy who's going to suck up all the rebounds defensively, and so more of it should have fallen on him, and he hasn't stepped up in that regard as consistently. So I think there's probably a lot. Like I think you could probably look at data and easily refute or support the claims I just made, and I haven't. But that's just the eye test what it's telling me.
That's fair enough. So I think the way I can tie all of our discussions together here so we can wrap up the podcast is bring it back to Collins and Kessler. And those are 2 very different players. Kessler is a stronger rebounder than Collins. Collins is a smaller player than Kessler. Do you think I made a couple of videos this week and I said the Pelicans, maybe they would choose to start Kessler. I don't know about that, but I feel pretty confident they would close with him. That was my position on that. Where do you guys fall on if those 2 specific players were acquired? Who would start? Who would finish? And who you would kind of look to as like the better fits?
So it's so funny you mentioned those two guys because I was literally on Cleaning the Glass looking at Collins on, Kessler off at like 4-factor stats. They're better on both ends of the rebounding, both ends of the floor rebounding the ball with Collins on and Kessler off. And so most of those were
funny.
yeah.
That's
So
Really?
so they were 84th percentile offensive rebounding. Well, I guess I haven't looked at the inverse, but they're 84th percentile with Collins on, Kessler off offensive rebounding, and even 65th percentile defensive rebounding. So I haven't looked with Kessler on and Collins off, so that might still be good, but I do think that's notable. And so I as far as how they manage who's closing, yeah, I don't know. I mean, Willie's gonna Willie, right? Like I feel like it's gonna. I feel like Collins is like the
Jerry's
athlete.
closing, baby.
Collins is the athlete, and so that's like he's the closer option to Larry Nance. So it's gonna be Collins.
And that's the way I would go. Not just because he's more athletic. He gives this offense an opportunity to be dynamic. Shamit put out a tweet with the last 3 years. He has taken or made 2 more 3-pointers than Brandon has.
It was okay. So in the last 3 years, Ingram has made 224 threes. Collins has made 220. So 4 less.
4 less
than Brandon. 4 less in 3 seasons.
In 3 seasons, and one of them was a center or power forward. The other one has the ball in his hands for 28, 29% of the plays that he's on the court. So that just with Trey and DeJounte, and if Herb takes another step, plus the wrecking ball, like that offense has an opportunity to be fantastic. And it's best of both worlds. Willie gets his athletic 5 that he can try to switch 1 through 5. And everyone who wants to shoot threes, we get our big that wants to shoot threes. It's the best of both worlds. So please, I understand. Walker Kessler, he's a rim protector. He's really good at his job. Please do not end with that guy. Please don't. Please don't.
I don't hate it.
What one thing to note here is like I think 2 years ago, Mason and I did a deep dive on the big men that the Pelicans can acquire. And we looked at Collins, we looked at Kristaps, we looked at Turner, and we looked at a few other similar candidates. And
we were both big on Porzingis, if I remember correctly. And
yeah,
it looks like
we were.
Porzingis.
Porzingis.
I wasn't here, but I got text messages that told me that they need to get Kristaps, so I understand.
Yeah, but what was interesting in that deep dive was Collins showed up better than Turner and some of the other names that were frequently mentioned. And it was surprising to us because at that time he played even less 5 than he did in Utah. And so it was just like, whoa, actually, like there might be something beneath the numbers here that's worth exploring. Now, a couple of years have passed. I do think this would be one of the better environments for him. Ironically, he would be the best shooting 5 Zion's ever played with.
Hey, the options are slim though. Well, shouts out to Nico Melli.
Shout out to Nico Melli.
Yes.
Who didn't shoot well? He was.
Hey man, I know. I'm trying to go back to the happy
peanut
place,
butter Melli time.
Let's go into the happy place.
Man. Oh, and just to round out, I did look up the opposite, and the Kessler on, Collins off numbers were about as good on the offensive glass, but were worse defensive rebounding. So, which I think is interesting.
Interesting.
It's not bad. Like it's 44th percentile, so it's not like a huge difference. But I think point being, Collins at the 5, the teams could rebound.
Anyways, I think this is a good place for us to leave it off. Thanks for listening, everybody. I hope something goes down this week. If it does, hopefully we'll be on the camera as soon as we can be. Our schedules are kind of all over the place, so we gotta make sure to work things out. But we'll have something. Don't you worry.